So you are back from checking out Meat Machines. What do you say, John?
Very different channel, that one. So yeah. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy. Well, I stand up next to a mountain and I chop it down with the edge of my hand. Well, I pick up all the pieces and make an island. I'd even raise a little sand. More on that later. First we've got a track to listen to. Andy, what do you got?
I wanted to bring a band to the channel. Now, I had Greg check out this band years ago when we were contributing to Into the Music. If I'm not mistaken, you commented on the video that you enjoyed the track for X, Y, and Z reasons. Some of those reasons we might see reappear again after you come back from giving this one a listen. I'd be interested to hear. But that band is the Claypool Lennon Delirium. And the track by them that I want you to check out is called Meat Machines. So, just in the interest of transparency and my own curiosity, did you go off and give them any more of a listen in the wake of you listening to Blood and Rockets by them?
Oh, is that what it was? No, I don't believe I did. It was a while ago, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was some time ago.
This is the one with Primus and Sean Lennon, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Or at least Les Claypool of Primus, but yeah,
that's what I
those
mean. Yeah,
two. Yep.
yeah, that's as much as I remember it, and I
Okay.
can remember the overall impression of it without remembering the actual song. But yeah,
Yeah. There were shades of Because by the Beatles to that tune, if I'm not mistaken.
right.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of your observations as well. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you had to say about Meat Machines, this now being, I guess, your second listen to this band. So go off, scope it out, and come back and let us all know what you've made of it.
Will do. I'm getting like Vangelis Blade Runner vibes here. That video's kind of like very late 70s, early 80s. Feels really familiar in the style of the side-on view of someone walking in a looped action. Yeah, very retro. Not in any hurry, are they?
Are we the first to be the last? Have the die already been cast?
I think that was chorus that then. I might just dial that back a sec. Yeah, interesting. So we transitioned from this sort of synthy opening with a sort of fake choral on top, and then there's almost like fake flute and strings coming in, and transitioned into the acoustic guitar and um, hi-hat pattern, and then there's bass comes in, and then we're into the main verse, and that must be Sean Lennon singing. Um, he's got a pleasant voice, but it's well within himself. And that verse, it can, if you're not really paying attention, his vocals can skate on by and without actually having any effect. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just they can be a bit sort of weak. And then I think there's a chorus bit here. He sort of opened up a bit more, and they become a bit sort of just slightly stronger and a bit sort of prettier as well. I caught some of it. I was back and fill in the blanks, but basically, was saying about signal gone and disaffected and disintegrated, and humans are nothing more than meat machines. The title of the song. So I think this is some sort of dystopian future, but rather than Skynet obliterating us all, it feels like we've sort of merged into the machines and lose danger of losing our humanity, perhaps. But yeah, the verse really sort of bouncy. I think there was the drums, and I think it was the rhythm guitar were giving it all the sort of beat. And the bass traditionally would do that, but it was doing the little riffs at the end because it's Prime Sky, isn't it? So yeah, he was having his little moment instead, which is a different approach. And then the chorus, it's sort of like these sustained, I think it was guitar strums or notes, and it really opened everything out. So it was almost like it was unfurling. And a bit more sort of open in thought as well, as to rather than we're trudging along, this is our path, and then it's like stop and question why with an open mind. That's what it gave to me. But let's just hear that chorus again. That there. Like those open strums, guitar. Oh, yeah, I enjoyed that. It's got a nice groove to it. It's really enjoyable. It's nothing, as I said, mind-bendingly different, but pleasant listen, definitely. Um, I like that sort of musical interlude. I think it must have been something like a Moog or something that was doing that sort of electronic version of a duck waddling and quacking. And then we got some sort of guitar twiddle in this ear with a synth mimicking it in this ear. And that felt very sort of ostentatiously 80s. Um, and then back in with the chorus again, and then a smattering of Vangelis as we finished. It feels to me like this is a concept album or part of a concept idea. And when you get those sort of things, particularly set in a scenario of, future or something like that, most songs within that concept album have a single idea um, as part of the overall thing. Sometimes it's just exposition, but mainly there's a single idea. I don't think the here it's the questioning or identifying the plight or the conflict, and then there'll be consequences, and then there'll be struggles and resolutions. I guess would be the concept. That's what it feels like to me. Could be completely wrong, but yeah, overall, nice. He has a pleasant voice, if sometimes a little bit ineffectual. Um, you can't help but get these ghosts of his father, to a certain extent. Um, but let's not kid ourselves. He's nowhere near the musician that his father was, but he's still. There's nothing wrong with what he does. I mean, that's must be a really difficult burden. I know that Julian suffered a lot from it as well, and he was an equally capable musician. Um, it looked too much like his father, to be fair. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with what he does. I mean, I think that comparison we can have it briefly and then dismiss it. If anything, the sort of bouncy nature of the verses in particular was more McCartney-esque for my ears, anyway. But yeah, overall, really nice, enjoyable. Yeah, and I definitely listen to this again. So let's find out some more about this. The man who's got the answers. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, so you are back from checking out Meat Machines. What do you say, John?
Very different channel, that one. So yeah, yes, I do remember. I was one of the very few people, I think, in the world who liked Sean Lennon's debut album, Into the Sun, and I got it because it was on Grand Royale, which is Beastie Boys' record label. But I thought it's decent effort, to be fair. Um, but so yeah, it sort of brought that back to me. So this song begins with this sort of like moaning synthetic line on keyboard. It sounds like an electronic desiccated version of a wisecracking trombone sound, sort of like seesaw, but this is like, all the moisture taken out of it and then made electronic. And for a moment, because I am of a certain vintage, and people will always go to this, I get glimpses of in my mind of Vangelis Blade Runner soundtrack. There's sort of little bits and pieces going on there. And the way the sounds are phasing almost, it's very similar. It reminds me of an updated version of those very early studio manipulations of tape, from the 60s,
Yep.
like backward sounds crossing over. And I don't know if they were trying to do that, or replicate that, but which again reminds me of a certain band from Liverpool and their experiments. So then we get a facsimile, I believe, of choral voices joining in, and it gives that sort of man versus machine contrast between the two sounds. You have a sort of angelic voices, I guess, against this very electronic sound. And then we get a little sweet melody fluttering across the top. And I think this would traditionally be the attitude of like a flute or something. And then we get some sort of, again, string-like sounds coming through. We're well past the minute mark now, and this is a very slow and determined introduction. The band are in no hurry whatsoever. I have to at this point mention the video. So this too adds to this late 70s, early 80s vibe that I'm getting from the music. Um, it seems in my memory, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but there were lots of animations knocking around that sort of time, which had a similar feel to this. So that same sort of cut out cardboard skyline behind, um, that sort of side-on view of somebody traipsing along. So pre-computer generated animation, which I guess is Toy Story, the process was always very laborious and very costly, famously so. Hence the often used technique of looping
Yeah,
certain
recycling the
sections.
backgrounds and stuff. Yeah.
And the original animated Spider-Man series really springs to mind. There were several scenes of him swinging through the skyline and running along that happened in every single episode.
Mhm.
Always the same bits. So yeah, this side-on view of this character walking, head down, seemingly oblivious to the activity in the background. It's really familiar to me. It's not quite Kiora, but it's getting that way. There's other stuff as well, and it's kind of nostalgic feeling as well. So around 1:15, a guitar riff enters along with escorted um, at the elbow with a tippy tappy beat on the hi-hat, and then we get this guttural phlegm clearing bass. After a couple of bars, this morphs into the sort of bouncy Beatlesque verse. Um, and I believe it sounds like it must be Sean Lennon's vocals, which join in. Um, it must be him singing because it sounds very similar. And then we get this interesting. We get this rhythm, the rhythm guitar or guitar, and the drums are holding down the beat. It's a very sort of choppy, bouncy guitar that almost sounds like a keyboard part. And that and the beat and the drums acts as a rhythm section. And traditionally, what would be the bass part, he's doing the sort of like decorative riffs at the end of each line because he's in Primus. Um, I do enjoy Sean's vocals, but they can at times be a touch. It's a nice word, ineffectual. If you're not really paying attention, you could like skate by. Oh, was he singing? So I didn't really catch the lyrics until the chorus, where which came in. It was sort of it was led in by some very wide open chords that sort of opens it out. Um, and he sings, "Is the signal gone? Have we? I think disintegrated yet? Why do all the stars look so disaffected? Are the humans nothing more than meat machines?" Or is there more? Is there more to us? Is there more? Is there more? So his voice opens out a bit more in there, so this sounds a lot better than the verse. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just it's more attention grabbing. And we get some really nice high sustained notes from the guitar as well, which kind of underlines some words. And then at the end, where it says "Is there more?" a second voice parrots that line twice in a very Lennon senior fashion. Actually, that's the most it sounds like him on this whole song. So I get from this, 'cause I didn't really get the verse right much at all. But I imagine from this, it's about some sort of dystopian future, where rather than Skynet targeting and attacking the human race, what's happened is the two forms of merge start to merge. And we're in danger of losing our humanity, I guess. Um, that's what I got anyway. So the next verse follows, and that bouncy feeling returns, which always puts me in mind of Mr. McCartney rather than Mr. Lennon. But it has that sort of nice, sort of bouncy feel to it. We go back into the chorus, and I'm noticing more, or perhaps it's just more prevalent, but those expansive sort of wide sounds and then that guitar note. So you almost have like a little country sort of twang to them. And it gives a real sense of the whole thing unfurling, um, which also sort of puts in me of minds opening up or open up your mind to different opinions. The other side of the chorus, we then get a musical interlude, which has got a more than a sprinkling of retro dust. First, I think it's like a moog, um, but it sounds like a waddling duck. Um, whack, 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 which is always comical and funny, and quite charming. And then we get a twiddling guitar in the left channel, very faintly mimicked by a very high synth keyboard sound in the right channel at the same time. And it has that sense of 80s ostentation about it. There's a little bit of a flourish and a bit of a showing off. Not a huge, it's not Eddie Van Halen. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
we go back around the chorus once more, and then we wind down with some more Vangelis sound slowly coming in over the guitar strums into the finishes. So yeah, this is really pleasant and retro sounding. I think I can't remember the song from before. I will say this is definitely a big step up from his solo stuff. And I mean, it was much maligned. But it's difficult. It's a difficult thing because with his surname, he's always going to get that comparison. And in terms of songwriters and performers that had an impact on popular music, his father is in the top one with his writing partner.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no one beats them.
Yep.
So he's never going to be, and his other son, Julian Lennon, had a bit of stab of it as well. And he really looked like John Lennon as well. And he was troubled by it, I know. So there's that. If we can get past that, I think this is a fairly decent, a really enjoyable song. It isn't that Beatlesque, to be honest with you. It just has a nice phrase about it. And there's a little bit of that sort of retro sound, but not a huge amount. It feels like this song part of a concept with the nature of what I caught from it. And I think within a sort of concept album, usually, and I don't really explore concept albums that much, but usually each song concentrates on a single idea. And that's why you get this overall narrative within the album. Usually. Sometimes there's an exposition or whatever, but here it feels like one of the opening questions, sort of establishing the plight or the conflict, And then I always expect subsequent tracks to sort of cover things like more exposition or consequences of said plight, and then a vision or a plan, and then conflict confronted, and then a jolly little denouement. So yeah, I thought this was interesting, and I'd enjoyed it actually.
Excellent.
Yeah, it didn't have too much Beatles about it for it to be a complete throwback. I'll have to
It's
go and
just
listen to that
enough
because
there.
it's just enough there for it to be appealing.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you enjoyed the listen. First time I heard these guys, I thought it was such an interesting and odd pairing for these two artists to collaborate on a project together, and for this to be, and I should say, and yet the outcome does make sense. It does sound like the product of those two putting their heads together and creating music. So it's really, I wouldn't have expected the collaboration, but then when I knew that it was happening, to hear the product, it then finally checked out. But yeah, this is rather new, as you could probably imagine, and I just find it so interesting, all the different sounds that they're playing with. There is enough of the Beatles there, but then there's other stuff happening as well, wildly rooted in both like a psychedelic sound as well as like a prog rock sound. As I will, Lennon classified the group as progadelic. Is what their sound is that they're going for, and you could hear it really come through. But there are these quintessential Beatle musical decisions that are made throughout. Now, it's made on music that doesn't necessarily sound like it was a direct product of the Beatles themselves, but the approach is there with the tinkering, like even the part that is very McCartney-esque that you heard, that plays a lot more with melody and layering and stuff like that. Like that's a distinctly McCartney thing, that you hear in this song, which is, it's funny that we, even all these years later, we can still identify, the fingerprints left by two of the most important songwriters in all of modern music. You know what I mean? So it's fun to be able to pick that out and to hear that, especially when one of the two main people in the band's last name is Lennon. You know what I mean? It's just really, it's kind of fun to see that. So the Claypool Lennon Delirium is an American rock band composed of bassist vocalist Les Claypool, known for his work in Primus, as you were quick to mention, guitarist vocalist Sean Ono Lennon from The Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger, and keyboardist vocalist Joao Nogueira from Stone Giant, and drummer Paolo Baldi from Cake, who we've discussed on the channel before. So it is this kind of super group, if you will. Lennon, as I mentioned earlier, classified their sound as progadelic. The band was conceived in
Uh,
2015.
sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
Progadelic. It does sound like a really bad hippie cafe.
Yeah,
Uh,
it does. It does. I would still stop in there to see what it was like, but
yeah,
yeah.
of course, of course.
The band was conceived in 2015 with Claypool knowing that Primus would take a year off after touring alongside the Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger and Dinosaur Jr. He kept in touch with the band's lead singer, Sean Ono Lennon, who had not planned any musical projects following the tour. They had ideas of making an old school psychedelic and progressive rock record. Claypool invited Lennon to his guest house to drink wine, run some ideas, and play drums. Over the course of the 6 weeks, they wrote and recorded 10 songs, with both of them sharing various vocal and instrumental responsibilities, going beyond their core instruments of bass and guitar, and culminating in the release of their first studio album, Monolith of Phobos. The album debuted in the top 10 of three Billboard charts: the top vinyl albums, top tastemakers albums, and top alternative albums. In 2017, the band released a covers EP entitled Lime and Limpid Green. The album comprises four covers of songs originally by Pink Floyd, The Who, King Crimson, and Flower Traveling Band. On February 22nd, 2019, the duo released their second studio album, South of Reality. The LP was written and recorded over 2 months at Claypool's home recording studio in California and was preceded by the release of the 6.5 minute track, Blood and Rockets. The duo embarked on a brief headlining tour in support of the record in late 2018, with successive dates in the spring of 2019. In a May of 2023 interview, Claypool indicated another album is being recorded. The bassist stated, "I'm halfway through a Delirium record with Shiner." On February 25th, 2026, not that long ago, the band announced their third full-length album, and buckle up, The Great Parrot Ox and the Golden Egg of Empathy, which was released on May 1st. And it is the album on which this track, Meat Machines, features. The announcement was followed by a single, The Golden Egg of Empathy, featuring Willow. The Great Paradox and the Golden Egg of Empathy is a modern day fable concept double album inspired by The Paperclip Maximizer, an AI dilemma, a thought experiment illustrating the risks of artificial general intelligence failing to align with human values, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom. It imagines a super intelligent AI tasked with a simple goal: producing as many paperclips as possible, that destroys humanity to acquire resources for that goal. The album reflects on morality, mortality, and the warnings of AI. So, yes, very much this dystopian feel, what happens when the robots take over type thing is going on here. Also, the Great Parrot Ox is clearly a play on the Great Paradox, but in this case, it's a feathered bovine of some sort with
So
this.
very, that's a very Primus thing, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. Yes, yeah, yep, yep, yep. You'll stumble across it while you're sailing the seas of cheese. The
Yes.
the Great Parrot Ox and the Golden Egg of Empathy is a cautionary tale of what could be in store for humanity if we continue to favor machines over men, Lennon explained in a statement. It is a tale of tenocracy, eclipsed by paperclips, a young man destined to unravel the fabric of his father's folly, and a sacred feathered goddess who holds the egg-shaped key to their future. Oh, concept albums. According to Jay Blakesberg of Rolling
But
Stone, oh, go ahead, John.
but first, before you can listen to the album, you have to throw a double six.
Yes, yes. And chug whatever wine they were drinking that night when they came up with this band. I'm sure that helps too. Uh, according to a double six, yes. According to Jay Blakesberg of Rolling Stone, who interviewed both Lennon and Claypool in the lead up to this album's release, Claypool and Lennon spent 3 years on the great paradox and golden egg of empathy. It's a wildly inventive ride, a full on rock opera packed with trippy prog journeys, Lennon's rich melodies, and Claypool's string straining bass guitar madness. And during the interview, Claypool noted, "This was the hardest record I've ever made in my entire life. We were building the pyramids. It was a monumental undertaking and accomplishment." And of their collaborative process and creative dynamics, Claypool would add, "When we're making these records, he's more like Paul, and I'm more like his dad," Claypool says. "I'm like, oh, that's good, let's go." And he's like, "Well, no, I've got this glockenspiel part I want to play on the harmonium. Oh, and I'm going to redo all these layers of vocals." Claypool also sees his role as counteracting Lennon's melodic tendencies. "I throw the warts and pimples and barnacles into the mix," he says. "Otherwise, it'd be all pretty, and he likes pretty stuff." Spencer Kaufman of Consequence of Sound reviewed the track when it was released as the third single and wrote, "The duo of Les Claypool and Sean Ono Lennon takes things in a more melodic direction on this tune, with Lennon's lead vocals evoking those of his late father, the iconic John Lennon, and giving the song a bit of a Beatle vibe, albeit with Claypool's distinct bass playing." And Bass Magazine also reviewed the album and described it thusly: "Driven by a worry psych prog tension, ominous groove, and a creeping sense of unease, Meat Machines captures the delirium at their most pointed and unsettling. Where the earlier single, What a Predicament, introduced the album with a warped meditation on AI, morality, and what happens when empathy gets optimized out of existence, Meat Machine pushes further into the record's central tension, whether human beings still have agency in a culture that seems increasingly ready to reduce life to function." So let's jump into these lyrics. "Are we the first to be the last? Have the die already been cast? It's such a very precarious line between stoned and petrified. If Oedipus never told his fate, would he have been able to shake it? If you can't see the cage you're in, how can you break it? Is the signal gone? Have we disintegrated yet? Why do all the stars look so disaffected? And are humans nothing more than meat machines? Or is there more? Is there more to us? Too busy rewriting history to see what tomorrow brings. Too busy pretending to be clean, you can never say what you're really thinking. Because if you question their beliefs or assumptions, they'll destroy you. When you can't see the maze you're in, how can you escape it? Is the signal gone? Have we disintegrated yet? Why do all the stars look so disaffected? And are humans nothing more than meat machines? Or is there more? Is there more to us?" "So some people think humans are just biological machines," stated Lennon of the new single. "They think free will is a hallucination and we're destined to be replaced by robots. Not only are they happy about this, but they're actively trying to make it happen as fast as possible. Some of us think we still have a choice. We think there's something special about living, breathing, and feeling. We believe we can shape our own destiny because we know we are more than just meat machines." So there you go, John. As the as I know I've talked to you about this off camera and probably have mentioned it a few times of late. Nothing is making me more and more uneasy the more I look into, read about, and learn about the sort of paradigm shift on the horizon, or that we are in the early throes of, with this whole shift to AI and how that can affect humanity, economy, the world. So this was kind of a perfect timing for this album to come out, as this subject matter that I just outlined is becoming more and more topical these days, for better or worse. So thanks for giving it a
You,
spin.
you say all that, but it also helps rewrite your emails in a friendly yet professional tone. And all, it does sound a bit like this is an episode Star Trek, whatever, written by Gene Roddenberry. You know, that sort of human dilemma that he likes
Yeah,
to put in a lot of his stuff, which gives the heart of the Star Trek sort of narrative. That and Mr. James T. Kirk trying to spread his seed across the galaxy.
yeah, yeah. Well,
They're the
every
two
episode
main
had to have a little bit
drives.
of that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's fun, and I know you know it's like a lot of things on the outside. These sort of concepts, whatever they be, whether it be an album, a book, a TV show, whatever, can seem ridiculously complicated and flights of fancy. But once you get into it, it's all enveloping, and when people are into it, then that's when they get the maximum benefit out of it.
Yeah,
So yeah, I could imagine this being a lot of fun.
yeah,
And yeah, it's almost like that concept of an AI machine doing enough, paper clips, but uses all the natural resources up. That could have been written by, as I say, Gene Roddenberry or Douglas Adams as well, in a comical sense.
yep.
It's quite not much of a big stretch to think of that as happening. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's an interesting theory, and I think what gives it what it's the innocuous nature of the paperclip that makes the theory
yeah.
so fun or interesting, even though behind it all is this implied danger that could be out there. You know what I mean? But just the creation
But
of so many paperclips, it becomes detrimental to
we can
humanity
we
as a whole.
yeah, we can see the danger of AI, Skynet, whatever you want to call it, but human beings are very, very capable of fucking themselves up without the help of any sort of computers. So we should be worried more about people dropping bombs on school children
Yeah,
than
yeah.
than that. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Or humans using AI to do that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, really interesting to listen, both fun and thought-provoking.
yeah, yeah.
Enough shades of the Beatles in there for us to be able to attach onto some things and have a nice further discussion on the whole shebang bang and packaging here. So glad you liked it. I'm always a sucker for some Claypool bass, so I was happy to bring this to the channel. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this track by these two interesting fellows. And if there's anything else by them or, by either of them, outside of this project that we should check out, feel free to shout it down in the comments field below. Let us know your thoughts on all this topical information if you've got them. Always interested to hear what other people think about these things. Also, please like, share, and or subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.